Hi everyone, Azrael Knight here, and I love looking at old magazines. Every one of them feels like a time capsule, as they are a mix of pop culture and bite-sized info that publications thought that the general public wanted at any given time. I also find it fascinating what used to be considered acceptable, seeing the wax and wane of liberated and conservative expression over the decades. They were also the main way people consumed what we call life pro tips in modern times. As photographers, those old photo mags serve as a manual of how those before us captured an image. Sometimes these magazines are the only sources we have left of the old knowledge. And in this episode of TOC Extra, we take a look back in time through the very first issue of Popular Photography. The first issue of Popular Photography was introduced in May 1937 and was published by Ziff Davis Publishing Company in Chicago, Illinois. To give some perspective, 37 marked the year of the Hindenburg disaster, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart, and saw the release of classics like Snow White in theaters and the publication of The Hobbit. The average house cost $4,100 US, and gas was 10 cents a gallon. Of course, people only made an average of $1,800 a year as well. Let's take a look at a few interesting things I found. First off, the cover. The first issue had a color cover and promised to answer all questions about photography. The photo featured is a woman in the shower drying herself off, in full makeup of course. The letter by the editor says that the shower has gold-plated fixtures, a raised bathtub, and cost over $10,000. So in 1937 standards, it cost 1.3 houses. Well, one thing is certain, no one in their right mind is going to pay that much for a golden shower. Wait, what? On page 23, they take you into a well-illustrated and behind-the-scenes breakdown of the cover shot. The photo was taken by Stanley Young, who also invented, designed, and built the camera, which is referred to as a direct color camera. The chief advantage of a one-shot camera is that it enables a photographer to catch action. In this particular shot, fast action was necessary since certain negatives were made with the shower running. Even when the shower was not running, as was the case with the cover picture, the drops of water were running down the model's figure very fast and had to be stopped. The next thing I found interesting were the casual displays of violence. The two examples I present are on pages 7 and 27. In the article, Exciting Experiences of a Newspaper Photographer, it shows two photos of men who had been shot by an assassin. The first is Mayor Gaynor of New York in 1910 after an attempt on his life, and the second is of Mayor Cermak, who took a bullet, by accident mind you, intended for President Roosevelt. Cermak actually died of his wound. On page 27, something even more grim in the article Catching Crooks with a Camera. Something we take advantage of today is the aid photos have in proving events. They are widely accepted as admissible. But in the early 20th century, when they were trying to convict Robert Dreamer in the death of 17-year-old Thelma Young, this photo was initially objected by the defendant, but ultimately put Dreamer in the electric chair. Lightening things up, let's talk about advertising. Let's be clear, modern advertising is incredibly invasive, but the old ads have a charm to them. Maybe because I'm a man out of its time and therefore I can see it from a safe viewing point, but more likely because it's not rammed down my throat in the form of an unskippable video or notification on my phone. Here are a couple of examples. Ever miss a picture you want to get? You needn't if you keep your camera loaded with Agfa Plenachrome film, the guaranteed film. Plenachrome gives you better pictures under any conditions, and good pictures even under conditions you formerly thought were impossible. Its high speed, wide latitude, high color sensitivity, and remarkably accurate rendering of light values prove a definite help in getting better results every time. Be ready next time with Agfa Plenachrome film, the film with that extra margin of quality. Every roll is sold with the guarantee of pictures that satisfy or a new roll free. This one is from the New York Institute of Photography. Photography offers you big opportunities. Get into this profitable field. Cash in on the growing demand for expert photographers. Enjoy a fascinating, profitable career. We give you individual practical training that will qualify you as an expert in commercial, news, portrait, advertising, or motion picture photography. Personal attendance or home study courses. 27th year, write for a free booklet. Automatically responsive to the photographer's slightest touch, Rolleiflex and Rolleicord cameras provide constant dividends in the shape of better pictures more easily arrived at. Their ultra-luminous focusing finder lenses create a needle-sharp and erect image on the ground glass finder in actual film size, affording you a definite preview of your ultimate photograph. A number of other unique features which are rigidly protected against patent infringement provide remarkable ease in operation and absolute precision in performance. Moving on to the actual meat of the magazine, we now take a look at what this issue offered the 1930s photographer. Here is one that caught my eye. My Experiences as a Model by Naomi Anderson. Naomi Anderson talks about being a model in her own words. I love this article because she wrote it. It's her account of her beginnings as a model, conflicts with her family over her choice, body positivity, and avoiding amateurs and scumbags. And then came my first experience at posing in flimsy underclothes. This was what my mother had disliked and what I had disliked too, and I must confess that the thought of posing that way before a strange man made me quite nervous, and I flushed with embarrassment. And then when I finally stood there, I saw that the photographer wasn't seeing me as a woman at all, but merely as part of the day's work. To him, I was just something to be photographed, nothing more. I reminded myself that I had gone into this thing with my eyes wide open as a means of making a decent living, and when I saw that to him it was also a matter of business and nothing else, I forgot my mortification, smiled at my squeamishness, and went ahead and posed. A story she tells later about a photographer for a national magazine didn't go very well though. He asked me to undress for nude posing. I explained that I was unwilling to pose in the nude, but that I would be willing to pose in underclothes. I did not care for the way he handled himself and decided to leave the studio. The situation was getting rather awkward, and I remarked, with sly seriousness, that it would be quite a front-page story were I to jump out of his studio window dressed how I was. This brought him back to his senses, or at least frightened him, so I was able to leave without further difficulty. Besides in-depth articles like this, there are also a lot of how-tos in here. How to pose your subject, how to take better pictures, how to take cave pictures, how to make a floodlight. One of the truly interesting DIYs was building a portable enlarger. Now when it comes to building, I am all thumbs. I break everything I attempt to fix with few exceptions, and anyone who's watched me build darkrooms over the last couple of years knows they are janky at best. So this is all gibberish to me. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate the importance of this though, as it would still be relevant for film photographers today. This has been a fascinating look into popular photography's first issue, published over 80 years ago. To paraphrase the editor, I hope you had half as much fun watching as I did discovering all this information. If you like what I do around here, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Old magazines are expensive, and getting them shipped is also pricey. My patrons help offset costs like this and others so I can bring unique videos like this one to the public eye. I would love to be able to ramp it up and make more and utilize better resources, but it's a slow, expensive process. I've recently updated my Patreon perks, so if you've looked at them in the past and haven't been impressed, there may be something there for you now. If that doesn't float your boat, you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and until next time, stay classic.